Have you ever found yourself captivated by the perplexing dilemma of why famines occur? Could it simply be a result of food scarcity, or is there a deeper, hidden narrative? As it unfolds, famines are not as straightforward as mere food shortages. They also encompass the pivotal part played by disparities in food distribution. The illuminating work of Amarty Sen, a distinguished economist, draws attention to this factor, highlighting the critical role of entitlements in creating famines. His proposition is that famines do not solely arise from food scarcities, but are often instigated by imbalances in food distribution and entitlements. Our excursion into the depths of famines and their actual causes whisks us through the pages of Poverty and Famines, an essay on entitlement and deprivation by Amarty Sen. This influential piece of literature is an all-inclusive expedition into poverty, famines, and entitlements. Now let's skim through the chapters of the book to lay the ground for our more intensive exploration. 1. Introduction. Here, Sen sets the scene by presenting an overview of the key themes and debates he will be probing into throughout the book. For 2. The Great Bengal Famine. This chapter presents a case study of the Bengal famine of 1943, manifesting a real-world context for the abstract concepts deliberated. It explores how the famine unfolded, who was affected, and how entitlement failures led to this massive disaster. 3. Entitlements and deprivation. Sen plunges into the understanding of how access to food is swayed by factors, including entitlements, using examples from famines like the Ethiopian famine of 1973. 4. The role of exchange entitlements. Sen the significance of exchange entitlements in deciding food security, providing insights using the case study of the Bangladesh famine of 1974. 5. The Bengal famine reconsidered. Sen revisits the Bengal famine of 1943 for an in-depth analysis of the factors that added to its intensity and aftermath. 6. The entitlement approach to famine. Keying in his novel approach to understanding famines, Sen uses historical famines as illustrations in this chapter. 7. The processes of famine. Sen scrutinizes the processes and systems that can cause offering insights into how these calamities can be forecasted and circumvented. 8. Famines and prices. Sen investigates the relationship between food prices, entitlements, and famine susceptibility, accentuating the economic facets of famine. 9. Policy responses to famine. In the concluding chapter, Sen sifts through policy implications and responses to famine, offering strategy for mitigating future famines. These chapters furnish a structured framework for examining the multifaceted issues of poverty, famines, and entitlements. As we penetrate deeper into these subjects, bear these chapters in mind to aid your comprehension of famines and their primary causes. In the pages of Sen's enlightening tome, he unfurls the concept of entitlements, a term that encapsulates the myriad avenues through which individuals can secure food, be it production, trade, or aid from public institutions. The narrative sections underscore that famines are seldom a consequence of a deficit in food supplies, but rather originate from disparities in food reachability and entitlements. For instance, examples from famine-stricken regions demonstrate how individuals often possess the means to obtain food, yet are hampered by socioeconomic barriers that impede access to these entitlements. This struggle for accessibility paints famines in a fresh light, shifting the focus onto entitlements. As readers plunge deeper into the book, they gain an understanding of the fundamental role of distribution systems and societal regulations in averting and diminishing hunger and destitution. Diving deeper into the structure of the book, Sen dissects the complex socioeconomic and political elements in individual chapters. For instance, he elucidates the role of colonial policies in aggravating the Bengal famine and the impact of war on exacerbating the Ethiopian famine. Each chapter illuminates the factors contributing to famine susceptibility. Sen drives home in each chapter the significance of these factors in effectively poverty and hunger. The crux of his narrative isn't merely centered around the amplification of food production. Rather, it delves deeply into the imperative of ensuring that individuals are equipped with the necessary means and rights to acquire it. As Sen delves deeper into these matters, he unfolds the chapters of his book, introducing the entitlement theory, illustrating it with compelling examples. Each chapter of the book emphasizes that the deciphering of entitlements holds the key to tackling issues such as poverty and hunger. For instance, the book presents a powerful case study of the Bangladesh famine, where despite sufficient food supplies, widespread hunger prevailed to the lack of entitlements. This pointed example showcases the theory in action, forming a strong argument for its validity. The book argues that the solution to such crises doesn't solely lie in the abundance of food, but significantly on the abilities of individuals to acquire food through multiple avenues. Sen delves into the chapters of his book where he examines the intricate interplay between economic, social, and political elements in defining poverty and famine. To illustrate, one of the highlighted cases in the book is the Ethiopian famine, where he unravels how market dynamics and government policies played a major role in shaping the course of the crisis. Not only does he limit his view to the Ethiopian case, but also employs a multifaceted approach that scrutinizes the vast structural disparities and institutional setups in different geographical contexts. The chapters are filled with significant policy implications, drawing from real-life examples. They collectively make a case for policies centered around the augmentation of entitlements, boosting social safeguards, endorsing economic growth, and tackling disparities in resource accessibility, all shown through a myriad of case studies, including the implementation and effects of said policies in famine-stricken. Sen's perspectives pervade every chapter of the book, underlining recurring motifs and challenges faced due to poverty and famine. A striking example is the common patterns found in the famines of Bengal, Ethiopia, and Bangladesh. In these contexts, Sen draws parallels between the widespread malnutrition, economic despair, and the inadequate response of local and international authorities. These similarities are not limited to a single chapter, but rather resonate across the book's entirety, presenting a comprehensive view of poverty and famine. Exploring the pages of Sen's Poverty and Famines, each segment offers a meticulous analysis of the multidimensional causes of famines and poverty. From entitlements, socioeconomic, and political factors to comprehensive policy solutions, each chapter delves deeply into these vital elements. The potency of the book goes beyond merely addressing food scarcity, extending to access, entitlements, and structural disparities. As we journey through each chapter, we gain enhanced insights into how these factors have reshaped our understanding of poverty and hunger. For instance, Sen's theories have significantly influenced international development policies. His idea of development as freedom, for example, has become the bedrock principle of many organizations like the United Nations Development Program, shaping their to poverty reduction. When we immerse ourselves in the chapters dealing with famines, we discover it's not merely about the dearth of food. It's an intricate maze of entitlements, distribution, and socioeconomic influences. Another shining example of Sen's influence is the World Bank's reorientation of strategies following his work. His emphasis on human capabilities has led to a shift from a narrow focus on income poverty to a broader view considering various dimensions of poverty. This has molded the way we measure poverty and devise strategies to tackle it. As we delve deeper into the book, we realize the magnitude of Sen's theories and their far-reaching impacts on our global understanding of poverty, hunger, and development strategies. Let's now delve deeper into the profound relevance of Poverty and Famines by Amarty Sen to Nepal. This country has a rich tapestry of history, marked by poverty, food insecurity, and exposure to natural calamities, which brings Sen's work into stark relevance. To begin with, understanding the susceptibility to famine in Nepal is a pivotal point. For instance, Nepal has weathered numerous food crises over the years, and Sen's book provides an illustrative theory. He proposes a framework that signifies the importance of democratic principles and public action in the prevention of famines. By applying this, we can understand these crises in Nepal better, and it can guide us in identifying potential solutions. Secondly, Sen's concept of entitlements brings into focus the deprivation experienced in Nepal. Notably, he emphasizes entitlements as a set of commodity bundles that a person can command using the totality of rights and opportunities that they face. Given that significant portion of the Nepalese population relies on subsistence farming, this entitlement theory can cast light on the stark food scarcity issue. Thirdly, When we observe the role of market dynamics and food prices in the context of Nepal, it is evident that fluctuating food prices often trigger increased food insecurity. Here, sense of how changing availability of food doesn't necessarily lead to famines, but the lack of an individual's entitlement to food does, can lead to a more nuanced understanding of Nepal's situation. Fourthly, Sen's stress on social safety nets, economic progress, and political reform find resonance with Nepal's development priorities. The country's endeavors to curb poverty and enhance food security can take a leaf out of Sen's book, literally. His insights carry the potential to shape policies and approaches. Lastly, Sen's principles are adaptable to Nepal's unique socioeconomic fabric. His global insights can be tailored and applied to the distinct challenges that Nepal encounters. In conclusion, Poverty and Famines by Amarty Sen offers practical insights and frameworks that can guide efforts to address poverty, food insecurity, and vulnerability in Nepal, thereby rendering it not just relevant, but also highly applicable to the country's development context. While Poverty and Famines has been instrumental in understanding and addressing issues of poverty and famine, it is not without its criticisms. Some critics argue that Sen's focus on entitlements may be too narrow. For instance, in the book, critics pointed out that Sen's entitlement approach in the analysis of the Great Bengal famine failed to consider the role of political economy and the influential power dynamics at play. They suggest that other factors such as social structure, cultural norms, and power dynamics also play a significant role in food security and should not be overlooked. There are also instances in the book where critics have pointed out that Sen's theory often lacks empirical evidence. They argue that though it provides a valuable for understanding famines, it may not always accurately predict or explain real-world occurrences, like the Ethiopian famine of 1984-85. There's also the critique that Sen's work neglects the role of political economy. Critics argue that power relations, political institutions, and economic structures, for example, the market controls in the North Korean famine, are key determinants of famine, and these are not adequately addressed in Sen's entitlement approach. Furthermore, some question the applicability of Sen's theory to non-famine contexts. They argue that while the entitlement approach may be useful for understanding famines, it may not be as relevant or when applied to broader issues of poverty and food insecurity, like chronic hunger in sub-Saharan Africa. Finally, critics suggest that alternative approaches may be needed to complement Sen's work. These could include a focus on resilience, sustainable livelihoods, and social protection measures. In conclusion, while Poverty and Famines provides a valuable framework for understanding and addressing famines, it is essential to consider these criticisms and explore additional approaches to fully tackle the complex issues of poverty and food insecurity.